The Toronto Blue Jays signed Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to a long-term extension, but they have one other player on their roster that is an impending free agent that there's seemingly no movement towards getting them signed long-term. That player is Bo Bichette. So right now in this video, we're going to look at 8 different potential landing spots for Bo Bichette if he reaches free agency. And there's going to be some interesting names on this list, so let's get into it. Now, as we look at this, there's going to be 4 distinct categories of teams that fall into the Bo Bichette market, if you will. And we're going to start with the most likely. Most likely is Bo Bichette goes right back to the Toronto Blue Jays, as they have the most obvious fit and need for him if he decides to depart. Yes, they brought in Andres Gimenez this past offseason, and that could be a player that shifts over. We know how good defensively Andres has been. But when you look at what, especially the start that Bo Bichette has gotten off to, this is what they run on. Yes, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the big name on the squad. This is the most recognizable figurehead in that lineup. However, and I've been a very big proponent of this and said this many times here on the channel, how Bo Bichette goes, so go the Toronto Blue Jays. Bo Bichette has gotten off to a good start, and so have the Blue Jays. They find themselves sitting in second place in the American League East, just 1 game behind the New York Yankees. If the Blue Jays decide that they are going to approach Bo Bichette about a long-term extension, they need to do it before he racks up another all-star caliber campaign and really puts himself in a much higher financial bracket than he currently resides. Now, as we get into the second category, it is what I like to don not likely, but there's a path. And the first team that we look out is the Los Angeles Dodgers. Obviously, the Dodgers go out and sign everybody to deferred contracts, and it is a big talking point in the offseason. However, they currently have Mookie Betts at that position. Yes, Mookie has done a very good job of being able to be an extremely versatile player and allow the Dodgers to be able to place him anywhere they like. One such place could be moving Mookie out to left field now that they have signed Teoscar Hernandez to a longer-term deal. That would leave the vacancy at shortstop available for a player like Bo Bichette. Yes, this is a guy who could go out there and really benefit from what the Dodgers have been able to do and be a fixture in the middle of that lineup. I think that for the Dodgers, they are very much like the idea of holding on to Mookie Betts at the shortstop position because of that versatility that they can mix and match with the other guys that they have on their roster, i.e. Tommy Edman, maybe bringing back Miguel Rojas. There's a lot of options for the Dodgers that don't necessarily include another high-price financial commitment that it'll take to bring in a Bo Bichette. But that it is a possibility, and that's why they find themselves only not likely, but there's a path list. The second team on that not likely but there's a path list is that of the Atlanta Braves. Yes, right now the Braves are featuring Nick Allen, and obviously we have seen Orlando Arcia there at that position. It is an opportunity for the Braves to go out and spend some money that we have not seen them do far too frequently, most of the time locking up their young guys that they have been able to acquire via trade or brought in and drafted and signed as an international free agent. So while it's not likely that the Braves would go out and give a high-priced dollar contract to a Bo Bichette, there is still an opportunity, as that to me is the weakest spot in the Braves lineup and a place where they could look to augment and add some more offense. I think that Bichette would be a great fit in Atlanta with his skill set and what he would be capable of doing within the context of that lineup, and that to me is why they find themselves on my list here. Now, I don't think that financially the Braves would want to get into that kind of commitment with someone from outside of the organization that they have not properly vetted. I think that there is an opportunity for Atlanta to be a player in the Bo Bichette market should he find himself in free agency, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, the last and least likely candidate in this not likely but there's a path category is that of the Tampa Bay Rays. Yes, Bo Bichette and the Tampa Bay Rays don't sound like a match made in heaven, given the fact that we know the Rays do not spend a ton of money. However, there is an opportunity here, as Bo Bichette did go to high school in the Tampa Bay, St. Pete area, and we know that the Rays are going to try to build out a franchise that is going to try to draw fans back after the fiasco about their new stadium no longer being in progress. So I think that if the Rays management system is looking to really build out a team that could bring fans back to that ballpark, as crazy as it's going to be, Bo Bichette could be that player. Being able to steal a high caliber value player from a division rival even more could juice the wheels of this potential acquisition. Yes, it would be a complete change in the way that the ownership group in Tampa Bay has handled situations like free agents, but we know that there's been a lot of conversation lately that they've been in talks with some of the higher end free agents. Now, Bo Bichette could find himself in a deal with the Tampa Bay Rays, a coming home of sorts, and could be able to stick it to the organization that clearly shunned him by not even remotely having a conversation with him long term in the Blue Jays. So I think that for the Tampa Bay Rays, this could be a potential acquisition target, but again, not likely, but there is a path. The third category to me is the long shots. These are teams that have a clear necessity, in my opinion, but lack the necessary financial resources to be seen as a true player. The first one that we look at is the Cleveland Guardians. We know that the Guardians aren't one that's going to spend a ton of money, but yet they find themselves extremely competitive. This may be the opportunity that for them to be able to recoup some value and bring in some heavy talent, especially on the offensive side. You bring in a Bo Bichette and you plug him into a lineup that contains Jose Ramirez, one of the greatest and least talked about superstars in the game today, in terms of a national level at least. This could be a very strong 1-2 punch in a very wide open division for the Cleveland Guardians. The American League Central, to me, is a 4-team race each and every single year, and if you bring in more firepower by bringing in a guy like Bo Bichette to the Guardians organization, that could be something that pushes them over the edge. We know that the Guardians are typically built on pitching and defense, and Bo Bichette could help with the defensive part of things, as well as being able to do more offensively than what we've seen out of Brian Rocchio from the Guardians. Now, the last team in the long shots category is the opposite division, and it's the Milwaukee Brewers. I think that for Milwaukee, the loss of Willy Adames will stand large this season. Yes, right now they have Joey Ortiz playing in that position, but it is a spot where they could truly upgrade. Obviously, you have one of the greatest defenders in the game today in Bryce Terang at second base, and you don't really want to move that off the position. Being able to bring in a guy like Bo Bichette could truly help balance out this order and bring in another firepower talent. To me, being able to replace Willy Adames is a very difficult task, especially how good he had been for the Milwaukee Brewers. Being able to bring in a guy like Bo Bichette could bring the Brewers over the edge. And again, much like the American League Central, the National League Central, to me, is a wide open division as well. And Milwaukee has been the headliner in that division over the last several years. Being able to put themselves in a position to succeed by having a guy like Bo Bichette a part of that organization, to me, makes the most sense. And the final category, and arguably the most fun category, only to avoid a lawsuit from the MLBPA. And that will start with the Athletics with no home name. And that, to me, is one of the things that we saw them do this past offseason. They went out and spent some money. We know there was rumors about a potential lawsuit from the Players Association if there was not somewhat of a salary floor for this organization. We would see the A's go out and spend big on Luis Severino, a 3-year, $67 million contract, I believe was the final tally on that. They went out and made some other moves as well. Being able to bring in a guy like Bo Bichette to the Athletics organization could be another one of those moves. Handing out a large-scale contract to be able to raise what that payroll will look like to avoid any potential issue with the Players Association. The last team on the list that likewise, like the A's, would only be spending money on Bo Bichette despite having a clear need at the position is the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think that the Pirates ownership group has been nothing but absolute trash, to say it nicely. I think that when you look at what this organization and the history of this organization, they deserve better. Yes, there's a lot to be said about it. I already made a stink on the Pinstripe Plunge Report weekly live stream show here on this YouTube channel about the fact that the Clemente logo was removed and replaced with some advertising sponsor without even notifying the Clemente family is utter disrespect. Not just to one of the greatest players to have ever played this game, but arguably the most recognizable name from your team's franchise's history. To me, the only way we see Bo Bichette land in Pittsburgh is for the Pirates to avoid any sort of lawsuit from the Players Association. Despite the fact that they really don't have a true shortstop right now in that organization. Yes, IKF has done a respectable job at the position and being able to move around and plug in different guys there, but being able to start building a team around a young core with the pitching staff that you have there, with O'Neal Cruz out in center field, this is an opportunity for the Pirates to go out and actually show some heart and some life and bring in a guy like Bo Bichette to play shortstop for them and start to build this team into a contender that we know they can be given the staff that they have. Obviously, a lot of things were mentioned here. I want to hear from you down in the comments section below. Baseball fans, let me know your thoughts, your feelings. Where does Bo Bichette land? Is it going to be one of these teams that I've mentioned in one of these 4 categories? Is it someone completely off the board that you think will be the end victor of the Bo Bichette sweepstakes? Do you think that he signs a long-term extension with the Blue Jays before even reaching free agency? Let me know all this down in the comment section below and we'll continue the conversation. As always, make sure if you're here on this YouTube side, you hit that like, subscribe, and bell for post notifications, as every single time we drop new content like this video essay, you'll be notified. Absolutely love to have you guys here join us. Make sure you also hit that Linktree link in the description below, as it does have all the pertinence to our merchandise store where you can absolutely show some support for the channel. It does truly help us continue to bring you products and new videos each and every single week. Also has all of our pertinence to the social sponsors, like our new partnership with Top Sports Trading Card Company, and we also have a new partnership with Just Bat. So if you're looking to level up your bat game for your season, make sure you check out justbats.com using the link in our link tree below. It also has our social links, so you can find us on all the social platforms, as well as our audio. And if you're listening to us through the audio side, we want to thank you. Make sure you leave a 5-star rating and review. Once again, Bo Bichette is going to be a free agent, at least at the time of this recording. And I want to hear from you where he lands. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.